Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Grev, and welcome once again to another Rip Room Riz podcast. I'm joined on this lovely, mediocre Sunday evening by my colleague Jace. We are 24 hours removed from the game yesterday, so we've had some time to stew. How are you feeling in the cold light of day?
I'm all right. I'm over it already. Move on.
Moved on.
Yeah, simple. I mean, annoying that I didn't watch the City game, but I saw they won 2-1 at Luton. I thought that might have been a similar game to maybe what we had at Luton. I was hoping for maybe Luton scrape a point, but apart from that, I'm over it and moved on.
Fair enough. Well, it feels like you're ready to to get into it already, Jace.
How was your Sunday, Grev? How was your Sunday?
My Sunday was fine. It's very, very lazy, exceptionally lazy. I literally did nothing. So that's why I was ready to do this early doors. We're recording a little bit earlier than usual to just, I think, for a bit of catharsis more than anything, for us to kind of at least let all the bad juju out. I think at least. Let's see.
There's some, but not much.
There's some. All right, cool. All right, I'll crack on the intro music and then we'll get right into it.
Saka. Saka! That is a diamond of a goal! It's Bergkamp. That's magnificent!
This is my club. Fucking love this football club.
Henri. What a goal! Gabriel Martinelli! He's scoring for Arsenal!
Right. It has been a lazy Sunday, but I'm hoping this is not going to be lazy, Jace. I hope your written review is going to give me something that, I don't know, probably not to get excited for. I can't imagine it's that, but at least it's probably going to be at least something a little bit different. So go on, give me your written review.
How do I make it different? I mean, we've kind of talked about this before, but I'm kind of reiterating it again. But I think I said something similar the other week. Like, we need to be. This is a lesson learned, and we need to take our chances. That's like kind of most key thing I took away from the weekend, right? I don't think we played badly. I don't think that it was an awful performance, and I feel like, especially after the first half, like Villa's one chance, they just got one goal, but we had so many chances, and we didn't take our chances, and that's the biggest kind of thing for me. It's we're playing that style of football in the moment, as we talked about, clinical. We keep talking about that word, but the problem is when we're trying to be that kind of side, we actually have to be genuinely clinical, and if we don't, then we can get a result like what happened yesterday. So that was the kind of like main thing I took away from yesterday, and I think it's just like kind of the biggest point is this has to be considered a big lesson learned, and we need to move on from this pretty quickly. Liverpool coming up at Anfield, always a test for us. We do not want to put ourselves in the same position again. But I think you feel slightly differently. So what talk to me about your review? Yeah. What's the big takeaways for you?
I mean, it's kind of similar. I do think that we were sloppy yesterday, and like you say, we did create a few chances. It wasn't necessarily a bad game by any means. So me and Jace, we watched it in a room together, which is rare for us if we're not in the grounds. And we did have a few friends over as well watching it together. And the thing that I probably said the most was our passing was just incredibly poor.
Yeah.
Incredibly poor. Like, we had so many loose passes across the park, and I don't want to single out players. We're going to talk about some of them in this podcast. But it was just, I don't know, in very, very similar to old Arsenal's, too predictable, not really able to carve out many chances. And it's not like a Villa didn't give us space either. They weren't playing a low block. They came to play, which was good. It just wasn't. I had a Villa fan text me, and they said, because I told them this is going to be a good game. We're two attacking sides ready for a game, and they texted me after saying it was not a good game, and they basically said that it felt like we were both kind of hungover from the midweek games, and we were just kind of plodding through treacle a little bit into this game, which I suppose you can see a little bit.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, but my general consensus is that we had a lot of space to exploit. We didn't exploit it. We rarely made good use of the chances that we had. We were too predictable, maybe that's right, lethargic in our play. And maybe that was a bit of a hangover from playing a lot of games in a short space of time. And I don't know, I just feel a bit empty. After, I know that you said we've talked about games where we've lost in the past, and then we've kind of let it wash over us a little bit. Like we've both been, like you just said, actually, it's a loss. Move on, learn from it, and do something different. The one thing that I have been thinking about a lot, and we've talked about it in other pods, I've listened to it in other pods, the fact that Arsenal haven't got out of third gear yet is mentioned again and again and again and again. What if that is fifth gear? What if it is?
It's not,
hey, look, I also don't think it is, but I'm saying that, like, at the moment, there's nothing yet turning the screw in terms of our performances. I looked at the Wolves, I look at Luton, I look at this game, and there's nothing through any of those three games that didn't necessarily think that, like, particularly complacency, like particularly that lack of kind of closing out games or doing well with our chances, which I think is the bit that's the missing piece of the puzzle for me.
So I have a slightly different perspective. I don't think we're out of third gear. Maybe we're into fourth a bit, but we're definitely not at fifth or sixth. If we look at one of our problems we felt in the beginning of the season, we weren't scoring enough goals. We weren't creating enough chances. We were completely reliant on being clinical. And I feel in the last 3 or 4 games, we have seen the volume of chances go up and the amount of goals that we're scoring. Scored 4 against Luton, 6-0 against Lons. Okay, yeah, they left acres of space. And we punished. Yeah, but the volumes of goals are going up, and we are creating chances. So, but the also thing is, when the chances are created, we're clinical with them. We just weren't clinical against Villa. So I am seeing the volume of goals go up. I believe we have gone up a gear. However, that going up a gear has seen an increase in some goals, but it's not seen an increase in intensity on the field, if that makes sense. There's an intensity to last season that we just all really want to see. Just a certain, and the most I've seen of it this season was Lons, where we absolutely destroyed them. But that was a game where the space was created. And now, as we've talked about this before as well, like Premier League sides costing on to how we play and playing low blocks and playing certain ways against us, the back, doubling up on Saka, doubling up on Martinelli. And that same kind of way that we played last season when we came out the blocks with a high intensity just doesn't happen as much. And I believe that is stopping us getting into fifth gear. I don't know. Maybe that's the problem. We have a fifth gear, but the way we play teams set up against us prevents us getting to fifth gear. And we haven't found another way to get to fifth gear.
I mean, you could have got to it here, right? This was the perfect game. Like I'm saying, the opposition didn't. It's not like they set up in the same way that we can't play against them. They had so much space behind them that we could have exploited.
So I'm going to say let's move on. Let's get to the next topic, because this is straight in. This is straight into it.
Ramble. It's really funny actually. There's someone at work always said that this it's called Elmo, and I use it at work, and it's like, enough. Let's move on. And so I'm going to use it here. Elmo. It's good, Jace. I like it.
Elmo.
Right.
Nice.
Elmo, yeah. Use it at work. Our first segment, we've used it before, actually. It's, are we bad or are they good? Or maybe we've done the reverse of that. Are we good or are they bad? There's a combination of these that we kind of looked at. And this game, like you've already kind of alluded to, Jace, I suppose, is that you said it yourself. It wasn't a bad performance. And there's enough in it that you took away that you kind of believe that it's all right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the chances that we created, right? Against Villa, who tore City to shreds, have been playing really well. Their position in the table justifies that. Ollie Watkins has been scoring so many goals. we struggle at Villa as well. Last season wasn't an easy game against Villa. There are a lot of people who will say Unai Emery is a bad manager. He's not a bad manager. He was just bad for us, and that was
He's a bad fit, right?
Bad fit, wrong time. He couldn't speak English. I think he lost the dressing room because part of the reasons was his language skills. I think he had the media, fans taking the mick out of him, rival fans, and imagine how that fits within a dressing room environment as well. I think, just wrong place, wrong time. The club was in a bad state, Rouse in there, and all those things. So I think it was just bad time. Since then, he's gone back to Villarreal. He won the Europa League with them. He knocked us out of a semi-final of the Europa League, and now he's at Villa doing a great job. They have 15 games at home unbeaten. I think they were like the second or third best team in the league on points from the point he took over to the end of the season last year, and they're flying. Like, he's not a bad manager. Like, the Arsenal example was just a bad circumstance, and you said yesterday, and I'd agree, you'd have taken a draw with Villa, and I think we should have got a draw at least. It's just, I think, Martinez from Villa made Martinez. He made some great saves. He not many keepers would read what Odegaard was going to do, and he did, and he got down quick and fast and stopped some of his shots. So it is what it is, but that's why I'm kind of like, we move on. I'm not disheartened. It's not like we've gone to a rival in the league and got absolutely trounced. It's not like we've been outplayed and played off the park. It's not like when we used to go to Liverpool, go to City, even other teams, where we've been outplayed. Like, I remember Newcastle away at Villa Park 2 years ago for Champions League, lost 2-0, got absolutely dominated and outplayed. The new game against Newcastle, when we lost the game, were we outplayed? We weren't outplayed. We just didn't have anything that day. Then there's going to be a couple of days like that where we don't have things, and the challenge is in those days is that we just have to ride it out, get a draw, take a point away, and that's just the one failing. That's the lesson learned. That's why I'm kind of relaxed about the performance in a way. There's a few people I want to call out, but before I do, I mean, if you've got anything to add to that, like your perspective on the performance, do you think this is points drops? Do you think this is a bad performance, or are you more like, because you're I'm in an R-ing on it, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of stuck, and I texted you before, and I did mention, I was like, I'm a bit, don't know how I feel about this game, and I still don't really. I'm still trying to marinate a little bit on the result and kind of figure it out, and all the. I'm always quite reliant on stats to tell me a story. And, that what you're telling me, what I'm hearing and what the stats say are saying the same thing. We had a lot more shots. We created a lot more chances. We had more possession. We had a higher XG. So ultimately, Arteta will look at that in the same way that you have just then and kind of gone, on paper and by the eye, we had the more of that game. We weren't outplayed. We didn't necessarily get some luck. There's luck in football, and we have ridden it a few times this season already. Man United, offsides, last-minute goals. We've ridden it while we needed it. Maybe we just didn't get it today. I think the problem I think I'm going back to is it's just our away form particularly doesn't look great again, and that has been a problem in previous seasons. And Villa Park's not an easy place to go by any means, but I do think they were there for the taking. And it once again kind of tells me that maybe this team is just not ready. I know we're not near the end yet, nowhere near the end yet. But we talked a lot last season about the mental fortitude and Troy Deeney cojones that this team maybe do not have. And you just start to see speckles of it a little bit, in my opinion.
Well, there's a big thing here, which is we'll talk about later, VAR. So, that's a big input into some of these results as well, right? I think so. I won't talk about it now. We've got a section in the pod for it, but that's a big influence. I think true. If I just focus on a couple of the players, so Martinelli, I was, when we were watching the game, you heard me be quite vocal. I was like, he needs to go. And I think he went in the 68th like the classic 68-minute, like with 20 minutes to go, bring Trossard on. Like I was watching that game. I just subbed him at halftime. Like he just wasn't. He just wasn't in the game. I wouldn't say Trossard was much better, to be perfectly honest, but he in my opinion, he didn't turn up. I've not seen he wasn't able to use his pace to exploit that wing effectively enough. When he did get in a good couple of positions, I think he got called offside once or twice. He just, for me, put a little. It wasn't a bad performance, but it was a little bit of a stinker. On the other hand, I thought Kai had a really good game. He was aggressive. He was winning challenges. Again, I thought, it was his work to get that goal, which didn't count, obviously. But, I think Kai is really coming into his own in the team. I think he's fitting in really well. On the other hand, with the exception of him having a really good game, there was one thing he did annoy me. And again, this is what we said last podcast, right? His defensive capability. He was pulling one of the Villa players by the shirt. Now, if you're doing that on the halfway line to do a tactical foul, like Arteta loves, fine. Don't do it on the edge of your box. Don't do it on the edge of your box. He did. That annoyed me. And
he does seem quite heated, like hot-headed. Like, even after he got a bit shirty with Martinez got in his face. I think he bumped him over when the ball was like 93rd minute or something.
Martinez started it and then he gave it back, which is fine. I like it. He's I don't mind that. Like, entitled to defend himself, especially against Martinez. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's a kind of couple of performances where I was like, kind of good and bad. What did you think about Saliba? Because I had a view on him as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, you think? Yeah, I think I'll let you, but I don't think my opinion is quite as vocal as yours. He certainly didn't cover him. He didn't cover himself in glory, but I wouldn't necessarily say. But even like I said, we watched it with some friends, and one of them probably said something along the lines of, "This is meant to be the best centre back in the league. This is meant to be the best young defender in the world right now." Probably a bit of banter in there, of course, but I think you're saying that this was his worst game in an Arsenal shirt, right?
I can't remember him having a worse one, to be fair. I can't.
Is that just because the quality of his performances is usually it's similar to Rice? It's hard to differentiate between, unless they drop an absolute stinker.
Yeah,
it's hard.
And I would say Saliba's dropped a stinker, but there were definitely things for me that stood out. Some of his running and chasing of the ball was a bit odd, and for me, it was the passing. Like he's usually so good with passing forwards in a positive manner, but he played some really bad. But I mean, sometimes he's just passing a straight out of play, but that happened a few times. So I don't know. I just wasn't particularly like, we all rave about Saliba. I genuinely believe he's the heir to Virgil van Dijk. He is that caliber. He's that quality, and he was only 21 when he started in the league last year. He's only 22 now. He's got 8 to 10 years of prime still to come, and he's doing it at that age. And yeah, when we have friends who are rival fans watching that game, you're like, oh, just ignore that. Don't watch him there. Like, you don't watch Saliba every week. Don't ignore this game. You need to, like, he genuinely is, I believe, a level above. I just think he didn't do himself justice last night.
I think that's not a problem though, because the way I'm looking at it is like, yeah, it's just one game, but we currently only have 5 fit defenders, which is really worrying for me. Which is why I'm saying it's just really tough, because we can't really rotate in and out as maybe we wanted to. We're missing, Tomiyasu. We're missing Timber. We don't really have another centre back even. Like, I don't even know who. I know that a lot of our players are versatile and can play a lot of positions, but we're kind of one injury from playing Cedric Suarez again, which I don't want to like pull the ripcord on Jason, but he'll lose his shit if he sees Cedric in an Arsenal shirt in a game in the Premier League. You don't want to see it.
He was at Fulham on loan last year. He didn't even get a game, did he? Did he even play for Fulham?
This is what makes me. I know everyone always talks about us bottom in the league. We had Rob Holding playing centre back against Man City. You can't even get a game in for Crystal Palace. Like, yeah, I mean, it's read the room. You know what I mean? Like, that we were missing our key player. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. I'm going to Elmo it again. We're talking about defenders. Let's move on to one that we've not really talked about yet, and that is Zinchenko. This segment is called. It's a really poor wordplay on my part. Zinchenko, no, is the line. It's not great. I'll give you that. I think maybe both me and you have the same opinion here. He didn't cover himself in a shower of glory in this game, and probably hasn't for a few games. What did you think about his performance against Villa?
Well, he's just not positioning. He's not a defender. I think we've talked about this before. So he's not a defender. He is wrongly positioned in some of the basics for me. His chasing back also for the goal. You know, we got caught on the counter. He was out of position fine because he's inverted, and then you're chasing. But then there was, McGinn. You could if the ball's gone down. How to explain this? If you're the left back and you're not in the left back position because the team are counter attacking, usually the centre back will be pulled out to the left to cover where the left back is missing, right? And I think that happens.
Gabriel usually.
Yeah.
In this case, yeah.
So what happens is when the defender is running back, the left back is running back because they've been caught. The centre back's coming across. As a result, the left back should run and fill in behind. And that means two things. One, pick up a man. Do not pick up a man. And number two is, I forgot it now. Oh, no. Try and stop the cross. Because it's likely that Gabriel is going to be able to either make the tackle or just do something enough to try and stop the cross. But if he can't, the left back should try and also stop the ball going in, but he would just be deeper into the box. And I just didn't see anything from him. And I was just, I don't know, that's a problem. And I kind of I've got to this conclusion with Zinni. We have a bit of I wouldn't say we have a defensive crisis yet. One more injury and we really do have a defensive crisis. But he is a liability. And not a liability going forwards and in midfield. Let's be clear. His inverted position in midfield alongside Rice and even last season alongside Partey worked perfectly. And that's great. But there are certain games where you need a more stable defence. And we're not having that option at the moment to play an alternative to him. We got no Tomiyasu fit and there's no Timber. And we got rid of Tierney. So we have no alternatives at left back. We're having to play him. And I believe that is meaning that he is more exposed than he was last year. And we're seeing more of his flaws even more often. I think it was the game against Wolves. He got caught short and Martinelli was...
That's why Kiwior will play in that position. But that's why Kiwior came in against Luton, right? But they're very different.
I would have played Kiwior last night. Or I would have subbed Zinni off at half time.
Yeah. I mean,
it was... Go on.
No, go on, carry on.
No, I was just going to say that I believe that tactically, I think he's a midfielder when Timber's back. I don't want him playing there anymore. Sorry, interrupted you. Go on, mate.
I'm just trying to. You made a point where we're like, going forward, he's really adept, and last season he was. I don't think we've seen enough of it this season, if I'm honest. I don't think he's played in the same vein as he has, which is interesting. I tried to look up. He's already got a goal and assist this year in 15 games. He actually only got a goal and 2 assists last year, which did surprise me. I thought it was significantly higher than that in terms of his actual contribution to how. Maybe it's more how we play, like his contribution to our setup. Same as Jesus.
It was the triangles he played in last year. He was very effective.
Was it Martinelli, Zinchenko, and someone else?
Xhaka. And Xhaka.
Oh, that's it, yeah.
And most commonly, it's Xhaka doing the assisting. Zinni's in the build-up. And that's why he had less assists. But we've not seen that this year with Havertz and Martinelli. Like, we've not seen that.
No, and maybe they're not setting up in the same way. Maybe that's because, like we said, like Havertz plays this role where it's like, go and play football. I'm not going to tell you where to play it. just go and do and mixing in about the box and kind of run between box to box, but you're not like a left 8. He's creating something different.
But there was this thing last night as well, right, where Zini had the ball in his kind of inverted position. The Villa had dropped deep. He was just in front of it wasn't in there. It was in our own half. And he had the couple of defenders behind him, and he's just our football is about move the ball. That is our football, right? We don't stand. It's just keep the ball moving. And I don't know if you remember me. I was moaning. Just pass it over to Saliba. Give it to Gabriel. Just keep the ball moving. But instead, he's sat there in his inverted position, had the ball at his feet for like 5 or 10 seconds, just dawdling around. And luckily, no one from Villa pressed him because he's just trying to find the right pass.
Yeah,
but everything. It's just it was so frustrating. I'm like, it's not going to work. Just move it on. Stop trying to try and play the glory ball.
I think that's what he's been coached to do. I think that genuinely, I think that's where a lot of our team members have been coached to play and adapt in a certain way that when they're thinking about doing something differently, and this is why I think there's nervousness sometimes in the goalkeeper, in the defence, in the midfield, because they're told to play a certain way. And when that's not working, they then have to think for themselves a little bit and they're stuck. Like Zinchenko could easily play that simple ball. I think he's been categorically told your job when you pick up that ball in the midfield is to string a pass through, because Rice doesn't do it. Rice has got a different job. When Rice gets the ball, he cycles the ball. You don't see him trying to pick that pass. I think Zinchenko has categorically been told you've got to find that pass. You've got to unlock their defense. You're the guy that's going to pull that from front to back to front. And it's not when he can't find or exploit a space, he's then stuck in two minds about what to do. And that's where he does get his pocket pinched quite often. And I'm coming to terms a little bit. There's a guy on Twitter I follow. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's been quite a staunch detractor of Zinchenko, even through last season. You know, when everyone else is like saying Zinchenko's the one, he's so great, he's so adept. This one guy was like, no, he's awful. He'll be exposed. He'll be found out. And I'm coming to terms with the fact that his defensive shortcomings used to, not be anywhere near his attacking returns. So it was kind of we were okay with it. But now they're becoming both quite a liability, and it is being exposed. And I know, like I say, we don't really have many other options. And one of the things is as well is that let's say Declan Rice gets injured, we have a bigger problem there. In midfield, that Zinchenko going into midfield is not going to step up and help anyway. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I say, he's going to be playing anyway. We could rotate Kiwior and Zinchenko out. Kiwior seems pretty robust, pretty stable when he plays. But the thing is, like I say, he seems like quite a good utility. Yeah. But he's not. Zinchenko is not a utility. Zinchenko can offer you something. We're maybe not seeing a great deal of it at this point in time, but at the moment, I've not seen enough from Kiwior to say he's going to give us anything over and above. Let's say
he's never been given a run of games, though, has he? So
yeah, true. That is true. All right. Well, it's probably the moment we probably wanted to get onto for some time, Jay. So we're going to move on to it. It's we're going to talk about the VAR. Maybe controversy, maybe not. This segment is called Clear and Obvious. Mikel Arteta, in his post-match interview, used this term at least 3 or 4 times. I think the media have got what they wanted. They got a quiet and a disciplined Mikel Arteta, which is exactly the boring effectiveness that I'm assuming they want, because he's just robotic and giving them a no comment answer. Clear and obvious is what he said. Go on, Jason.
I don't think that's what the media want. The media want the entertainment. I think.
Right, so it's PGMOL, whatever it's called. They're going to be the ones that want it, right?
I think there's a. I'm not a very conspiracy theory person, right? But someone somewhere is it's basically like, look, Arsenal, you're not going to win out in being vocal. Sending letters and issuing statements and all of that. Like, they're basically like, you're not going to win out here. Like, we know it's a bit of a bad system, but it's kind of the same for everyone. So the more that we're vocal against the system, the worse it's going to actually impact it's going to have impact it's gonna have on our season. I genuinely think, like, because I I think Mikel sounds, saying nothing and just saying clear and obvious is still means you can tell just from that he is fuming. But he obviously he's just come back from a ban. The comments he made previously, I don't think the ban was for the yellow card on the sideline, right, for Luton for over celebrating. It wasn't from the comments, which is still under the investigation. It's gone quiet from one of the previous games. I think Newcastle maybe. So it's kind of like he knows that he can't really say anything for the risk of escalating the situation further. What we can do is we can say how we feel about it, which is like, again, I said this last pod, it's still us against the world here. I still think that's how it feels with, especially, many clubs may feel this with VAR, but I look at those decisions in the broad perspective. The Jesus one, the more I watch it, I'm like, oh my God, that's a penalty. Like, I didn't think it at the time, and then you said that could be called. And then when we saw the slow-mo replay, I was like, well, he's hooked his leg. So that's a pen. Like, I've seen much lighter VAR decisions and penalties given. So how that wasn't given, I think
this is the problem with it. Well, I think I think I understand why, and this is where his clear and obvious direction comes from. In real time, the ref hasn't called that as a penalty, and so when VAR reviews it, they have to be overly confident in the fact that it is to overturn what is his decision. It's the same thing at work, right, Jace, where you say you've got a boss who's made like a decision for you that you don't agree with. You're going to have to probably be over-indexing on the fact that you think it's different to his or her decision to go ahead with something different, because otherwise you're going to undermine them, and that's what it all is in the referees. And it's the exact same reason why the other one, so the handball and the ricochet and the pinball in the box, like, the ball's crossed in from Ødegaard, it's bounced off Cash's arm, it's bounced probably off Havertz's arm, it's gone to the bottom, and then knocked in by Havertz. Now that ref has called that from 30 yards out through like 6 people. He's called it as a handball. There's no way in hell he has seen that handball from that distance through that body of players. It's just impossible. There's no way. But he's called it, and so when VAR goes to review it, once again, they have to be over the top in understanding that it's not a handball to be able to reverse it. Because if he gets sent to the monitor for that one, he's also going to be like, well, kind of has and it kind of hasn't.
I just don't understand the rules on this one either. Like, they said, like, the rules say if it touches his hand, it's a handball. Well, it touches Matty Cash's arm. It's like, hang on, it's one versus the other. So is it favouring the defence? Is the situation
so basically
written in the rules to favour the defence?
Yeah, the letter of the law says that if in that situation, if an accidental handball is for a defensive player, it's not a handball. But if an attacking player, and it has to be the same attacking player that handballs it that scores the goal. So, for example, in this example, I can't tell if it's Eddie Nketiah or Havertz that scores that. This is what I'm saying. I can't tell. So I'm not going to go out here and say it was one or the other. But let's say Eddie's was more clear that Eddie had scored it, then that goal would have stood.
This is the thing, right? You give the undermining analogy. I don't agree with that in a way, because like in a situation you mentioned, if at work you want to overturn a reason, blah blah blah. Well, I'd go and get the evidence, and if I had a video as evidence, that's pretty damning evidence, isn't it? Like, if I've got a video, that's what video evidence is for. That's the whole reason VAR exists. So, especially with the Jesus one, for example, that's the one that, like, I'm like, watch this video. Do you see that foot hooking that leg and taking it out from underneath him? Yes. Okay, cool. Did you see it in the fast real time? No. Okay, cool. Right, that's a penalty. In a way, I want the. I don't think I think we should have multiple. I think we should bin VAR, but in the example we don't. Then we should actually have multiple referees who can make decisions. It shouldn't be about, oh, hi, can you go to the monitor and have a look at that, please? No, you're the person with all the video analysis in front of you. You make the decision, not the referee on the field. He's not best placed to make it.
But he is the one that's been given the power and autonomy to make that decision, Chase.
Yeah, but he's also influenced. He's also influenced by everything going on in the game. Whereas at least the person sitting in the room, he's not hearing any of the players. He's not hearing anyone else moaning at him. He's got no one from either club on him, like having a go at him. He's in a room by himself, able to make a decision with no external pressure.
I'd actually argue that's a good point. No, it's a good point because I think about that. You could be in a room on your own with no sound. I think sound will play a big part in this type of thing, from the crowd, from the players, from the ref. All of that kind of engagement is going to influence the decision. And I didn't come away from this feeling that aggrieved. Like Newcastle game, the two hands in the back of Gabriel, I felt aggrieved. I felt that is a stonewall foul. Now the Jesus one, in real time, it's a soft kick. He's not booted him. If you remember, was it last season that someone literally, I think it was Wolves or someone, literally went to shoot and Saka got in front of him and he literally booted Saka, cleaned him out. And we didn't get the penalty for it. I think it was Wolves. Now that one, that one's categorically, that's a penalty. This one's soft, and I think Jesus made a meal out of it.
Do you remember the dab with David Luiz, slightest touch?
Oh my God, on the heel, where he touches his heel.
Yeah, it was it basically, I mean, he didn't even touch him, but I mean, you can't even tell.
Don't do this.
Is the thing, right?
But it evolves, but it does evolve, and it has rules. But I think the biggest thing I'm asking for here is, like I said, I'm not necessarily too aggrieved by either of these two. I do think both of them. I think Arsenal's goal should have stood because I think Eddie scores it, but I'm still not, I'm not 100% sure, and that's why it probably hasn't been given. And the Jesus one, I would say, is probably a penalty, but because he didn't give it on the field, it couldn't be overturned, which I think is stupid. It is stupid, and that's the problem: the lack of consistency and the lack of using the tools at your disposal to make the right decision. That's like saying at home, I've got a knife block, I've got 5 knives in it, but I'm only told to use the tiniest knife. So when I'm cutting up a whole chicken, but you've only got to use that little knife, despite 4 other knives being there that you can use. It's stupidity. There is people around, like you said, in that room that can make that decision with better analysis and insight and angles to do it far better than you can. So why would you be going, I think it's a penalty, but also you were on the field and you saw it from 30 yards away, so tell me. Stupid. It is stupid. Yeah. But I don't think you said I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and neither am I. So I'm not going to go out and stand on the soapbox and kind of go, Arsenal this. I know that you said it's us against the world. I think us against the world is very clear in the fan base sphere. Other fans hate us winning, hate it. Man United, Chelsea, City. Nobody wants us to win it, and I like that. That's good. I don't think the refs have got anything against us, but it's really frustrating when you kind of see that Arteta goes out there and he was vocal after that Newcastle game about how bad it was and how they should be. Well, and that is true, and then you wonder how you can talk all about that. Oh, of course they're not. They can never be not biased towards someone. I've talked about it before. 90% of refs are all from the Greater Manchester area. This one that refed us yesterday, he's a Liverpool fan. Sometimes some of these things.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That can't be. Do you know what? Here's my really controversial, stupid opinion of referees. Let's take all the refs in Germany and put them in the Premier League, and all the refs in the Premier League and put them in Germany.
Well, take
the bias out of it. Let's have a bunch of Bayern Munich and Leverkusen fans. Well, I'll take that.
Look at the Champions League. Look at the Champions League. How often would you not see these type of decisions be made in the Champions League? You wouldn't. They're very few and far between by comparison, I would say. I mean, we saw, was it only the PSG Newcastle one, I think, has been the only controversy that they've had this year in the Champions League so far.
Yeah, and even like when we played in Europa and whatever, like for the last few seasons in Europe, I don't really recall anything that I feel aggrieved about.
Because
Not like
the quality of refs are like significantly better. You look at the World Cup. How many like UK refs go to the World Cup? One. I think.
Yeah, that's the same in every country, isn't it?
No, it can't be. There can't be that many refs. They'd want to do this job anyway. It's a thankless task.
Look, if anyone's listening from the Bundesliga, I'm happy to put you in touch with someone in the Premier League or the PGMO or whatever they're called. I don't actually know anyone, but I'll back you. Yeah, if do you know Howard Webb, go speak to him.
Yeah,
and he's got a great apology video if you ever need it.
Yeah, and he'll have a statement ready to go if you need it as well. Anytime you want to tweet that we apologise, that'll give us the 3 points to help us sleep better at night.
He has a PowerPoint and a Word document template anytime you need it.
Oh, anyway, I think me and Jace needed like a cold bath now or something. It's got a bit heated. I'm gonna move us over then to our parking lots. Anything you'd like to bring up in the parking lot, Jace?
Bench them all. PSV.
Sounds like a Pokemon thing. Bench them all. Oh yeah, we're gonna find it easy. But
Genuinely, who needs to really? I mean, the only challenge I think we've got with the Champions League is that we have there's a max squad list of players, right, that can compete in the Champions League. So you have a 25-man squad list. So it's like, well, if there's any game you're going to play Cedric in, play that one because I'm probably not going to watch it. I will watch it, but if Cedric's watching, I'll be inclined maybe just to ignore it when he's on the ball. But I think he's probably not even made the 25-man squad, right?
I'm looking now, so he is. I'm looking now.
All right, fine. That's me. The only time I'm happy for him to play because Ben White getting injured is the worst case scenario right now. So El Neni, Jorginho, Cedric Suarez. I don't know. Put a youngster in at left back because they can probably fit in Ramsdale.
Is Emil still fit or is he injured? I'm assuming he's injured because he's not on the bench or anything, is he?
Fabio Vieira.
He's injured too. That's the problem.
Reece is going to play.
Reece is going to play. Eddie should play.
Eddie, Reece. I don't know who else.
This is the problem with our defensive side of things, right? So the only other players that wouldn't necessarily be in our normal lineup is Cedric and Lino Sousa.
Well, we can play. Why not? Let him play.
He's not in the squad.
But they're under. You can play players. I think you can play players not in the squad as long as they're under a certain age bracket, right?
Really?
I think that's
there's a Lift B submission there. Under 21 players that can be boosted. So yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah,
he's got Cozier Dewsbury or those kind of ones could probably come in.
Yeah, Ethan and Nathan. I can't remember his name. Namwari. Yeah, play him. Like play these guys. It's an intimidating atmosphere. Some good experience. We don't need the points. We're already through top of the group, so this is just a training game. Doesn't matter.
We're gonna
obviously we want to win every game.
No, it doesn't matter. Of course we do, but we don't. Like you say, it's not an important game. It's one that you cannot afford. This is why I say I don't want to look in the crystal ball and kind of think about what could happen. But it's the type of game that you can sometimes see us playing a Saliba in there, a Rice in there, and then one of them picking up like a 2-month injury. But this is just, I know it's like we don't really have the depth to be able to not.
Who are the players that should not be playing, 100% not be playing? Saka, Odegaard, Rice, Saliba.
I think we'll see one of them. I think we'll see at least one.
I think we might see Gabriel. I don't think we'll see Saliba.
I think we'll see one of those four that you mentioned.
Kiwior. So what? Hang on. Who's going to play left back? Sousa.
It has to be Kiwior. So Kiwior has to be. But then Gabriel. Who plays alongside Gabriel? We don't even have a fit centre back.
There's a great guy, Crystal Palace, who'd be a good job for us. Stepping centre back when he needed.
Recall. Yeah.
Did he go on loan?
No, I think he got sold. He did. Someone else got loaned down. We can recall. Who went to
Tavares went to Forest.
No, Trusty, get him back.
No, he signed permanently for.
Oh, did he? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see how right or wrong both of us are then come Tuesday evening. Are you expecting us to lose based upon that? We'll probably just play the C team.
I think so. Like we went to Eindhoven last year, intimidating game. I think we lost 2-0 with a pretty strong team actually in Eindhoven last year. So intimidating atmosphere. You and I know that. We sat next to their fans at the home game, and I don't know. Let's just say that their fans were lovely, bar some who are I don't know.
Is that the game where we got a chair thrown at us?
Yes, that is the game when they pulled the chairs out and they chucked them over. The guy had that, the guy that kept having his snood up. He had his snood up like that.
Skeleton mask like that, right?
And then he had that up. And then when the ball came into the crowd and he managed to catch it, and then he just kind of like overarm threw it and just threw it straight at the guy, Arsenal fan standing next to him on the other side of the fence.
No, that's fair enough.
Clearly intoxicated on I don't know what, but so they're an intimidating bunch. Not all PSV fans, but some are an intimidating bunch. And I think that'll be an intimidating atmosphere, which is why I actually genuinely think like the points don't matter. Do play so many of the youngsters. Like, what a grounding, right? In if you're going to make it, you need to go through this test.
I know, but it's also a bit like how to kill someone's spirit in one full swoop. You know what I mean? Roll them out in front of an opposition, get absolutely trounced in a cauldron-like atmosphere, and won't be playing again for another year. There is an element of protection, I think, in some of the cases here, but this is what I'm saying. But I don't think Arteta's not
protection or league title. Protection or league title.
Hey, you take the Champions League, Jace, all day long. You know you would.
I'll take any
anything.
Well, I don't really care about the League Cup. FA Cup is always nice.
We're already out of the League Cup anyway, Jace, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really care about Wednesday. It's not important. Let's bring on Brighton. We're going to Brighton as well.
We are, yeah. So me and Jace will be there Sunday. This is going to be, I think I'd said in the last pod that I wanted to see 5 points from the next 3 games, which was Villa, Brighton and Liverpool. We are currently on 0, so we need to win both of these next 2 games, Jace, which I would say is looking more unlikely. But I think we can do Brighton at home. I definitely think we can do Brighton at home. They're very porous, and they're not the team they were last season. Famous last words. Love it.
I can't believe you just said that. Oh, dear.
I should not have said that. Famous Hagrid there. Right. Jace, if they're on YouTube, what do we want the crowd to do?
If you like the podcast, give us a nice little thumbs up, give us a subscribe, leave a comment. Everything is appreciated.
Yeah, and if you're on the other one, Spotify?
Spotify and Apple Podcast. If you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, again, subscribe to the channel, have a listen weekly. We're here most weeks, and leave us a little star or review.
Nice one. Yeah, when we're not ill, we're here every week. We missed a couple through illness, but we're back on the game now. We'll be hopefully be able to talk to you maybe about PSV. If there's any point to talk to you about PSV, we'll wait and see. Other than that, go on.
You should put a poll on my Twitter.
Yeah, is it worth a game to be talking about? I mean, it could be. You never know, Jace. Depending, one of those 4 players gets injured, we'll be talking about it. I could say that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right, enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, and thank you all for listening.
Cool. Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Come on, you!